My neck dance. Oh man.
We're live on YouTube. I'm going to start recording now.
10 seconds warning. Mary,
Right.
pull
Yep,
camera
I got
focus
it.
and go to mute.
I got it. All right, everybody. Oh, sorry, I'll start again. All right, everybody, it's another Whiskey Wednesday. It's September 9th, and I am here from DC. Mo, Giants fan extraordinaire, is joining us from San Francisco, and I'm sure Chris down in Dallas in Texas has something to say about that. Chris Dempsey, everyone from Texas. So we are welcoming today a marvelous whiskey woman, a friend of mine, often local to DC as well, and the first apprentice of the Nearest and Jack Advancement Initiative. Welcome, Tracie Franklin.
Hello.
Welcome. How are you today?
I'm very good. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, we're happy to have you. Tell everybody, just introduce yourself just for our audience at home who hasn't had the pleasure.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Tracie Franklin. I'm a whiskey woman. I've been in whiskey for working in it for about 10 years, maybe a little bit more. I really, really love it. I've been working for Glenfiddich Single Malt Scotch almost the last 4 years as their ambassador, and currently took a position with the Nearest and Jack Advancement Initiative. They have a program with that is the Leadership Acceleration Program, taking leaders of color within the whiskey industry and advancing them through hands-on experience, education, whatever it may be that you need to get to the role that you want. And I want to be a distiller.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Big on dreams. Tell us just a little bit about where you're from.
Actually, I grew up a military brat, Air Force, traveled around the world. We lived quite a few different places, but most of my life I spent in California. In California, I fell in love with theater and studied theater in school and also minored in business. I ended up touring with different theater productions around the world. And in New York, on tours where I fell in love with whiskey, with Scotch whiskey. And then in New York is where I realized whiskey was a huge category with all types of flavors and stories and legends and heritage. And I really fell in love there and went to a lot of tastings and events there, and then started a company called Whiskey, which is a whiskey marketing company that was intended to increase diversity in the world of whiskey. And then from there, it's where I kind of got picked up by all the different brands and traveled around and moved to Tampa, Florida for my husband's gig for a while, and then here to DC, which I love. Look, my DC flag.
So distilling.
I don't know. I got it at some event and I didn't want to throw it away. It's a flag, so it's in my snake plant.
Yeah, you just gotta keep it. I love it. So what drew you to wanting to kind of be involved with whiskey? You said you kind of started whenever you were a military brat, but
yeah.
Was it your dad? Did he give you?
No. Neither of my parents drink at all or drink.
Oh,
like
wow.
My dad and my mom, my mom thinks I'm an alcoholic. It's horrible. Yeah, she, and it's funny because I know that this is actually something that's pretty common within African American homes and families. Especially when they're very religious, sometimes alcohol can be seen as being a vice in such a way that there is a lot of harm that alcohol can do when not consumed responsibly. And my parents have both seen that on either side and within their families and communities. And so alcohol was just, especially with the religion, they were just like, you shouldn't be drinking. And I'm like, I'm going to sell it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to be the whiskey woman of the world. And while they are incredibly proud of what I do, my mom is always like, I wish it wasn't whiskey. What do you do? So what drew me in was really, I have always pursued flavor, whether that was in cooking or whatever it may be. As I was traveling the world, I was looking for those big, bold flavors that could tie me to a place and time. And whiskey is that. You know, whiskey is stories in a bottle, and I'm excited to get to know more and more of those stories. It's been years of refining my palate, and now I'm hoping that with this training and joining the industry, I'll be able to even expand the diversity even more and create new exciting whiskeys. You know, the more people we have, the more palates, the better whiskey we're going to get.
All right. So, first and foremost, good to see you. How you doing?
You too.
And second, what would be advice that you would have for people coming into the game and wanting to kind of like take those steps and elevate themselves in such a way that you have? What would be kind of like, I guess, like your 10 commandments or whatever you want to call it, so to speak, of ways to like succeed, or what you feel takes to succeed?
So there was an event that we did recently about where we wrote letters to ourselves, wrote a letter to a young bartender, and I did that. And what I really realized is maybe the way that I came into this, I don't necessarily recommend that for everybody. I grew up in a household that you knew that you had to compromise. You had to compromise who you were to get ahead. You had to sometimes hold back and not say things or not be things, or, you know, really mold yourself into what everyone else wanted in order to find your way up. And that is something that, especially now with learning what that is, what creates that, what are the forces around that really cause people to morph into other personalities in order to succeed. And I have, you know, and that was something I did for a while. And I feel like now, even in this position, I'm being able to embrace. I would really want people to embrace what they love. Bring your true self, your full self to the story, because I think that by, you know, kind of quieting a little bit of some of who I am, I did a disservice to those positions and to those people that were giving me those opportunities. I think I could have been even more disruptive, but I always wanted to be very cautious about the way that I was being perceived and the waves that I was making within whatever industry it was I was in. And I would say today, instead, like, let's go do this. You know, bring your full personality, bring your full self to the table, know exactly what you want. And if you don't know what you want, start talking to people that are in those positions that you see yourself in. And there may be something that you never even saw that actually suits you. Know what you're good at and use every single one of those skills to get where you want to go. I also trust yourself. I feel like we often will second guess everything that we're doing and second guess whether or not we're worthy. Screw that. Go get it.
And to follow up on that, you know, I've also had the situation to where like the family was like, yo, what are you doing? Like, I wish you were doing something else. And, you know, I've had to have that talk. What would be your advice on like having that conversation with your family? Because I think a lot of us in the industry, you know, your family's important and you don't want to disappoint them. But also too, being passionate about what you do and what you care about is also hard to maybe come and like break that wall down when you're like talking to moms and pops.
Right. And I think a lot of people don't understand that this is really important, not just because
it feeds us, right? We are in these positions because something about what we're doing feeds us and brings joy to our spirits. And our families sometimes just have difficulty understanding that the resulting product is that we are now marketing or selling something that they see as a vice, something that they see as being dangerous to our communities. But if they can look beyond and see how that spirit is also used for celebration, how in moderation it's something that can be really elevated to an incredible experience and that can bring joy, that can bring unity, that can bring relationships together. If we can show them that other aspect of these spirits and what we love, I think that's when they really will start to flip and support what we're doing. But also, I think that we as individuals in the spirits community have to be aware of the damage it can do and ensure that we know how to help and support people in the community, out as consumers, whoever it may be, that might need help. Just make sure that we're also able to provide access to anyone that may not be quite as responsible as we would like for them to be. But as long as we're focusing on teaching people how to drink responsibly, how to respect the spirits, how to respect themselves, I think that we're doing the right thing. And I think our parents will, or beyond your parents, just your entire family will see where your heart lies and see that you're really just trying to bring joy into the world. And this is the way that we found to do it. Nobody really, you know, hospitality is hard. Hospitality, you know, because it's not just selling spirits, it's also being a waiter, being a bartender. People think that those aren't real jobs, right? So our families are like, well, when are you going to get a real job? When are you going to go to law school? When are you going to do all these things? Yeah. And it's, so for us, it's first finding peace in yourself, know why you're here. It can't just be to sell another bottle of alcohol. It can't. Know exactly what it is that's driving you. Is it changing those days for the person that's sitting in front of you? Because I know for me, that's really what it was driving me as a bartender. I loved that I could control my space and that I could lead guests on an entire journey throughout their stay. I could take them from sad to happy through my experience. I had that ability, and I loved that. So once I learned that, for me, what it is really being able to provide an experience to bring people joy, or even if it's just to give people an ear, because I don't necessarily want people to feel like they have to be happy either. Maybe they just need to sit there and cry, but I'm there and I'm available. So it's really, once you learn what makes you happy about it, what you can provide at your restaurant, your bar, your job, also look at how that affects your regular everyday life, because there may be other positions and opportunities that you could take to volunteer in your community, to, other things that will bring you that same joy, that maybe your parents will be like, oh, well, oh, great. You also want 1 day a week go and you do this thing. And you're like, and slowly, maybe that'll help. I don't know. I know that I do like, but I do like also being able to do things outside of the community that bring joy to the world. So.
I was about to ask you if you miss being behind the bar, but I think you just answered that with that. Your favorite parts about it. How did your journey take you from the bar and then to ambassadorship, and ultimately to be the national ambassador for Glenfiddich? What were kind of your stops along the way, and what really inspired you to make that turn from giving up our treasured bar shifts in order to go out and educate?
Right. So it wasn't, for me, nothing's ever linear.
I am very, and maybe that's another rule that I would give is stay open. Stay open to opportunity. Say yes as much as you possibly can. Every opportunity, every door you step through is a lesson. And I have learned so much along my journey that I am always saying yes, and that's how I wound up here, right? So I was saying yes to opportunities, and there was an opportunity to work at a bar that had a really incredible whiskey program. I was already into whiskey from New York, moved down to Tampa and started working at a whiskey bar where I got a lot of freedom. So Dean was like super supportive. He really took me on and mentored me, and then was like, okay, great. I want you to build some programs with our whiskey program, like within the whiskey program. And so people in the community realized, oh, that girl knows whiskey and she likes to teach it. And she has all these little programs that you can take when you're there. So I became known as this sort of whiskey woman in Tampa. And whenever anybody came into town, they would bring any representative, any distiller, any blender. They always had to come and meet me, because I was first incredibly excited and just like, hi, I like whiskey. And so that always made everyone feel good, I'm sure. But also because I would then take that knowledge and give it to everyone else. Like, I was really happy to share anything and everything I knew with other people. So I think that really made sense for me to step out from behind the bar when I got the opportunity to focus more on simply sharing that knowledge, because that was really driving me. So sharing that knowledge in a new way, also still guiding someone's experience, but now I'm guiding it at an event, right? So from the moment someone walks in the door until they go home, I'm guiding their experience. And once I started getting into ambassadorship, sort of brand representation, I realized I was good at it. Other people realized I was good at it. And it just kept leading to another job, another role. And Glenfiddich was an incredible opportunity for me to be a woman of color in an industry that just hasn't had that representation before. I wanted to be visible. We all know representation matters. Seeing yourself matters. And to be able to stand there as an educated, passionate whiskey educator for Scotch whiskey, I hope that led to, more people consuming, more people enjoying, more people just understanding the category in a new way, that it's just whiskey and it's not this super fancy thing that excludes people. So it wasn't a straight path. I think it was meant to be. It suits my personality. I feel like all of the choices that I've made. So, but if you are thinking about stepping out from behind the bar, please think about more than ambassadorship, please, because there's so many jobs in the industry. There is so much that you can do. I actually have been looking to do more mentorship of and it's one of the things, if anybody ever tells me that they are thinking of stepping out from behind the bar, the first thing I do is say, let's go to coffee. Let's sit down and find out what it is you like about your job, what you don't like, what you're good at, what you want to learn, because there are so many other jobs that people don't think about. And I want to always steer people into a position that will make them happy.
That's great, man. I gotta tell you, your aura, your chi is like your shirt. It's just like sunshine shooting out at everybody, and they're like, yes, whatever you say, we'll do it. So, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm getting. So this is my first time actually meeting you, and I'm like, wow, man, I love this. This is great. I love
thank you.
I love it. So can you maybe tell people at home what it's like being one of the inaugural assistant distillers in this program?
All right, so yeah, this position. So in case people don't know what it is, I'm going to go do a quick little overview. So Uncle Nearest Whiskey and Jack Daniel's Whiskey have come together to create a program called the Nearest and Jack Advancement Initiative. It is 3-pronged. It is a business incubator program, so really focused in towards African American or people of color who own small distilleries and putting them through their business incubation. There will be a Nearest School of Distillation, so people who are just starting can actually go to school to study to come out and work within the industry. And there is the Leadership Acceleration Program, which is taking leaders of color, putting them into a position where they can get hands-on experience and education to then proceed into a role that they love.
I am the first person to go through this program, which is incredibly exciting. I definitely happened to be at the right place at the right time. I also, though, I took a step to pursue what I wanted. I heard that there was going to be a school of distillation. I didn't know about this leadership thing. And I was immediately reaching out and saying, hey, where is this school? What can I do? Can I be online? I love distillation. I've been working on it. I worked with Dave. I worked at small distilleries. I go to distilleries all the time to study. I am reading distillation textbooks because I'm a nerd. Please tell me what I can do. Teach me. And that led to this position. And basically, Fawn she and I talked about what I've done, what I want to do. And she took my name into the board. So currently the way that it's working is you get a recommendation. They have a board with employees from Nearest and from Jack Daniel's who then look at your resume, really approve you. Of course, they're going to check out your social media. So don't be weird. Don't do crazy stuff. They're going to look at what you've done within the industry, talk to people, recommendations, and I was approved. And now as the first, it is a huge weight. It is quite stressful only because I want this to be successful. It's time. We know that the whiskey industry is indexing so far away from what the population is. We need more diversity. We need more people of color in every single role within whiskey. And this program is the first time they've done it. It's the first program of its type, and it's the first to hit the market. Because I know that other companies are working on things like this, but they just went for it. So I want to ensure that it's successful, because if I fail, I might be setting somebody else up for failure. And that's scary. That is, for me, that would be a horrendous crime. And so I think that's also part of why they chose me. They understand that I take this very personally. And I'm also incredibly excited and thrilled, you guys. I get to study under some amazing distillers. I have mentors or people that I've looked up to for years that I can just text message and be like, hey, I'm looking at this chemical formula for this and I don't understand, or why am I using this certain, thing for filtration? What exactly is it pulling? And if I were to use this instead and change the flow rate, what would happen? Just really nerd out in a way that I've always wanted to. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's a dream. It really is.
So let's fast forward a little bit. And where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
It's a really tough question,
because right now I am so focused in on succeeding in this next year and a half. I know that I want to be distilling, or at least as running as distillery manager, which would be managing the people who are doing the distillation. I want to still be a beacon. I still want to be a representative in this industry, but even more, I think I want to somehow be the person that I want to be an inspiration for people outside the industry as well. The fact that I have been able to pursue something and really make my dreams come true, that I have been able to work hard enough to facilitate this with the help of my community. Please understand, this is not something I could ever do by myself, which is why I love that I have this whiskey community. The people who've always been a part of whiskey, the ambassadors, the representatives, the whiskey experts who write, the writers, anyone that's actually in this industry tends to be fairly accepting. They are pushing for diversity. They understand how it will benefit us. Some of the hold back comes from just years of tradition, the ways that we get into roles and the people that we've seen in roles. So consumers just don't understand it because they've never seen it. But if we start to show them, then maybe this will not just change whiskey. Maybe this will change the world. And I am really, really hoping that in 5 years, I'm talking to you and the world is different. Not just because of this, but this could be one small piece of that change, one small brick on that road that I was a part of. And I just want to be like, wow, look at what became of, look at that road that we built. I'm that brick. So whether or not that is me owning my own distillery, whether I'm working at someone's distillery, or whether at that time I'm not, and I'm just traveling around giving speeches to people because I just can't stop talking.
Fair enough.
I really don't know what it's going to look like, but I just know that it's going to be better.
So what would you, if you had folks that are thinking about watching you do this, thinking about kind of getting themselves together to apply to this sort of program or programs that will be offered, because I assume and hope that it will be a flushed out thing.
Yes, the website should be up next week.
Right. Anything any advice you would give to folks that are going to be entering or thinking about entering the application process?
I mean, the biggest thing is going to be show your work.
Right. People, they want to know that because this is a big investment. They're investing in me because right now I'm not producing anything, right? I am simply learning. I am absorbing all of these things. I am taking these experiences. I'm taking this knowledge. I am getting these certifications. I am not producing anything. So they are investing in me as a person. And if I couldn't show them where throughout my career I have taken something and turned it into something else, I have constantly overcome to achieve. So I would definitely be able to show your work. So really when you're talking, it's not just your resume, but what actions have you taken in your communities and in your life to create change? And know what it is that you want to learn, know what you're good at, be able to, and I know it's really hard, you guys, but you're going to have to be able to sell yourself. Know what it is about yourself that makes somebody want to invest in you and your success.
That's awesome. So you are probably going to be one of the biggest role models for young ladies at this point, I think, just for everything. I mean, you know, your attitude in life is just amazing. So thank you. Because I have daughters. I'm like, oh, I'm getting choked up. I'm like, oh God, this is great. Next question.
Right? Like, no crying.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't do this.
Well, and I had a call this morning with a friend
who she had been in the industry in Scotch whiskey when I first got in and was like, I want to learn about whiskey. And she was like, here we go. I got you. And has always been an inspiration, always been a mentor. And she called me today and just told me how proud she was. And I can't tell you, I bawled my eyes out. This is bigger than me. And I just want to ensure that I don't let anyone down. That's it.
Well, there's no doubt you probably would not ever do that. So I don't think that's an option really. But thank you. So Nearest, I mean, it's a pretty cool story. Texas loves that. It's all over around there.
Well, you know what?
Not only is it's actually good juice. I was like, okay, good. I was like, let me taste this because I'll make sure it's good. Even if it wasn't good, I'd still drink it because like they're paying for my education. What am I, but right. No, but actually it's a really good bottle of whiskey and that makes me incredibly happy. And it's being blended by the great granddaughter of Uncle Nearest. Which I find incredible. And this is a story that, again, is not just Uncle Nearest, though. We have to remember Jack Daniels. Like, Jack Daniel ensured that Nathan Nearest Green was not forgotten. He ensured that. He talked about him all the time. He gave him that credit. And so that is why today we were able to go in and pull up and, there is so much information about the beginning of this company and about this education he received from Nathan Nearest Green because Jack Daniels respected and honored him as a human being with distillation talent, right? And that is something that we have to really embrace. And I'm hoping that through this program and through through the story that the United States people in their communities will really start to listen to what is being said, to listen to how the story became truth, and take some of that into their communities, to really look and learn to respect each other, just no matter what your race, your color, your creed, your sexuality. It's about looking at each other as human beings. And when we can do that, we're going to finally get to where I think we can heal.
Right. So one thing I can say is, from the first time I met you, your energy, your light, and just kind of your consistency has been the same. You know, you're literally like clockwork. You know, you kind of know what you're going to get when it comes with dealing with you. So my thing is I admire how comfortable you are, and how it seems that you're comfortable in your own skin. Mm-hmm. Now, I wanted to ask you, was that something that was maybe the hardest thing to find, or was that something that you found yourself finding along the way, and then you were just able to incorporate that into everything else you do?
Yeah, so that's a really wonderful question. And part of that is something that I've answered.
Part of that is that I'm not as comfortable in my skin as I seem. I think that I'm constantly turning and being that and second guessing myself. I'm constantly judging myself much harder than anybody else. And I tend to want to skew and to please. I am very much a people pleaser. And so that's something I've been fighting against more and more, of really being able to know what I bring to the table, to understand my worth, to understand that I don't need to bend over. I don't need to adjust, to modify who I am to please anybody else. And that did come along the way. I didn't even realize it was happening until somebody else pointed it out to me in the way that you just did now, and said, you've been consistent along the way in these things. Somebody else said that to me. I was like, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I do. And they were like, here it is. I can tell you because I've known you for so long. But like, you don't shift as much as you think you do. So I'm really happy that, as much as I believe I've been like, oh no, I'm everywhere, no one likes me, I'm not a good person. In my head, that's what happens. But outside, I know what I need to do to succeed. I know what I need to do to make myself happy. I know what I need to do to accomplish what I want in this world and in this industry. And I think that focus has kept more of my personality and kind of like my actions kind of centered in a way that I don't perceive. So I think, again, it comes back to really knowing what you want to achieve, knowing what you're good at, and using all of those skills consistently. I've definitely gained skills as I've gone along, which is amazing, and everyone will. But I am getting rid of some of that weight. I think that by the end of this program, especially, this light will be even bigger. Like I just know what's slowly peeling, like that vulnerability that I'm allowing into my life. And that is going to make me a better person for everyone. And I can't wait.
I remember we were at camp, and this was, I want to say, it's probably like the second or third night. And there was a bathroom incident that took place. And, you know, we all got called in and what have you. And I remember going to your cabin, and I remember walking in, and you were just like, so look, you know, and that calmness, and that, again, it goes into the consistency of who you are. It's something that I think my last question was also kind of a compliment too, because I think we're also kind of constantly fighting. You know, we're always fighting that good fight, but you have been able to somewhat master the ability to keep that consistency, which is something that is really rare, because I can tell you I've had spouts of not being able to keep that consistency. And those are things that I think about, you know, and to hear what you're saying and to see how you just constantly just like constellation status, just like kind of shot through the roof. And I think it really speaks to that consistency so much. And when we were going to do this episode, I had flashbacks of that whole week, because you had a lot of trying times, and nothing rattled you, nothing shook you, nothing took you from that point that you were like, I'm not here for myself, I'm here for my girls, and I'm here for everyone else. And I want everyone else to also know that this don't break, this don't crack, you can't rattle or roll. It's like, I'm here. So It's been really awesome to see you constantly just shoot through the roof.
Thank you, Mo. I mean, also, I am definitely a mother hen. So if I'm in charge, if you are under my care, I'm vicious. Like,
oh yeah.
I take care of people under me, and that is the truth.
Yeah,
I try my best to be loyal. I am, of course, I am no way perfect. I have definitely faulted many people, many things, but I am trying to live life honorably.
I think that's an amazing goal that we all kind of strive for. I love about your comment about peeling away layers, and I think sometimes we get caught up in those layers. You know, we get into our imposter syndrome, and we think that this should be me out here doing this, but it really letting that vulnerability in kind of lets us be a little more playful. All that playfulness that we shed away needs to come back a little bit.
Yes, absolutely.
You mentioned distillation has been a real focus of this for you, but you also mentioned being able to take some time while you were with Glenfiddich and work in their distilleries a little bit.
Yes.
We're going to talk a little bit about that and what, your Scottish adventures, what their whiskey culture was really, really special to you.
Yeah, so I have been really lucky in that even from the very beginnings, I've been able to work with people who were just like, sure, you want to come distill? Come on. So every distillery I've ever worked for, basically everyone that I've known that I've been like, wait, you're doing what? I want to come, has been really great about opening up their doors to me. So once I was working for Glenfiddich, it was my job to know everything. So I was like, hey, I'm coming. and they were incredibly
open and generous. And what's wonderful about, and what's okay, this is going to be a weird answer to this question, because I want to tell a story really quickly about us and the second guessing, right? That imposter syndrome. So as a Black woman, I am Black American woman. I knew that when I showed up there and was like, I'm your new ambassador, they were just going to be like, meh. I just assumed that they were going to be like, why is she doing this? She knows nothing. It's like, who is she? And it was exactly the opposite. They were so excited to have me because we just linked as passion whiskey lovers. Like it was, you know what I mean? Like I would go to the distillery, I would immediately say, okay, I want to learn these things. And they were just like, yes, we're going to teach you. Because it wasn't about, this history, this long storied history of my great grandfather who's from Edinburgh. No, it was that I fell in love with this spirit because of the flavors and the stories and this heritage. And then I got to learn even more about it. And they were more than happy to be able to give me that as much knowledge, as much experience as I could carry. So in that regard, that is all of Scotland. I feel like that and especially in the whiskey industry, they just want people that are as passionate about it as they are, right? And that's been wonderful. So when I was actually at the distillery, we would go every year for about a week. The Glenfiddich ambassadors get to go to the distillery. And so we would go for that week, but I would spend either time afterwards or time before and just stay by myself and basically just shadow somebody in whatever position I decided I wanted to do that day. And I loved the lab, honestly, because basically the lab was taking samples from everywhere and testing all sorts of consistency. And I was part of the tasting panel whenever I was in town. So they tested you on your ability to nose different flavors and scents. And I passed. So I got to be part of the tasting panel when I was in town. And that was really cool. So basically just ensuring that everything stays consistent. So they would pull out this whole panel of all these different samples. And this is a huge panel. So like 50 people from the distillery would come in. It's probably like 25. But every day you would come in and you would nose through all the samples and they would tell you like, which ones should smell like the other ones or which is a different experience, and then you would know what you smelled. And that was really, really cool. But then we would go to the lab and we would test that chemically. So learning from the people in the lab, what chemicals did what and created what reactions and then what flavors. And it was just amazing. And that really just stole my heart. So I tried to sneak away to the lab as much as possible. With the distillation, honestly, it was really cool, but it was one of those things that like I wasn't learning the chemistry then. So I wanted to really learn what was happening inside of those stills. Like what were the molecules that were evaporating when, what time, what can I smell, what can I, so I did that a little bit with the guys at the distillery, and we would like sort of smell some of the new make coming off, and that was really wonderful. But then sitting down and putting it through chemical tests, like actually, scientific, like little labs spinning things off, gosh, that really fed my nerdiness, and that was wonderful. Yeah.
the energy level went from here to like, yeah, I did
that. Yeah, distilling can get pretty nerdy. I mean, it's funny because people are like, oh, those guys are nerds. And I'm like, yeah, well, we're nerds too, just about cool shit,
Right. Absolutely. And I've always said that. I am absolutely a whiskey nerd, a whiskey geek. I always call myself a nerd or geek. And I still don't think I'm cool. Like,
I don't understand it. My cousin, she's like, you're so cool. I'm like, I don't know. I guess I'll take it since you're saying that, but
so
I feel like a super nerd.
So growing up as a military brat, did you get to travel all over the world? And with that being said, what is the coolest place you ever visited from that point till now?
So being military, I traveled more in the US. We did go to Guam, but my dad instead, because he wanted us to have stability, my dad would leave. So my dad would travel the world. So he came back with all of these stories and gifts from all over the world for us. And I think that's really what fed this drive for me to travel. One of the cool things that my parents also made us do is we had to write goals for our lives that were like on the refrigerator. Like it was this whole thing. I should do it today. I should do that. Anyway, so I remember having specific goals, and some of them were like, I want to go eat paella in Spain. Like I wrote that as like a 10-year-old, and I did it. Like I did a lot of the things that were on this list. Because it was just something I was seeing in my head, right? And one of the things I wanted to do was visit 100 countries. And that was instilled in me because my father was running around seeing everything and eating everything, and would then try to get us to experience that in California or wherever we were. But I wanted to see it myself. And so I did that through theater, which is not the way most people do. Most people do join the military and travel the world, but I actually got to travel the world singing and dancing, which is pretty incredible. And gosh, it's a hard question. People ask that a lot. It's like, what's your favorite? It definitely depends. So I feel like my first experience of culture shock, how about that first, was in Morocco. So it was like literally the snakes dancing, the full animals hanging in the open air, spices everywhere. Like that was my first experience of, I stepped into a fairy tale. This does not feel like anything I've ever seen in my life. That was incredible. Then I feel like the place that changed me the most, that impacted my life in ways that I never imagined, was Thailand. So I got to spend almost 2 months there, and I worked with a Buddhist monk who we did meditation together. I got to really become close friends with 2 people who were locals and lived there, and they just took me around as if I was just their regular old friend. And so I was able to experience that country and their beliefs and sort of their culture in a way that not everyone does, and it really changes you. Really, yeah. And I miss what I gained from that. I miss that a little bit because it's really hard to maintain that appreciation and that openness when you come back home, So I would say Thailand.
Nice. I wanted to ask, now, like educational background, and now you're going into distilling. Like I think most people have like these bio, these chem, and this microbiology, and all these other degrees and stuff like that. And like, do you have those degrees, or are you just taking this upon yourself to do the work and learn?
Exactly. I'm taking this upon myself. I don't have those degrees. I've always loved chemistry. I always loved science. I loved all those things and did well in college, but it's been a while since I've been in school. So I don't really remember it. But I literally, I'm studying right now general chemistry, and then I have an organic chemistry course right after that. So these are courses I'm taking myself to ensure that I am able to understand things at the deepest level.
It's not necessary. If we consider how many distilleries are open right now, that somebody just had a lot of money and just opened a distillery, like we understand how distillation works. We understand, how enzyme, like I understand the basics in a way that I can actually break it down pretty intensely, but then to get down to those every single molecule and exactly what's happening in those substances is another level that I would like to gain that knowledge. I know that there's no way I'm going to get there in a way that somebody who comes out of school with an organic chemistry degree or something like that. I'm not going to, but I'm going to do everything in my power to be as knowledgeable as possible and to have every tool that I need. And I feel confident that I can do it because it's something that I already enjoy. And even just like going through the courses, it's really feeling more like a refresher right now because it is actually coming back. But no, I wish I was a chemical engineer, but I'm not.
Well, and the reason why I asked that question is to kind of set up this second part is that, I think it kind of tells your story in a lot of ways of how you don't let things stop you. And if you get something in your head, you're talking about the goals that you had as a child and things like that. You get these things in your head and you push through these walls. So in doing this, do you have any like book recommendations? Do you have anything that you are reading? Do you have anything that maybe, or a book that gave you inspiration for people that are listening or at home that are listening to this and would like to maybe take a little bit of maybe some of your juju and apply that to their life?
Oh. I don't think so. So my grandmother passed last week. My grandmother, Benny Perryman, was an incredible woman who worked her entire life. She worked so hard because she wanted her children to have opportunities. So when my mother was coming up, I watched her work so hard to give me opportunities. And I promised myself that I would take every opportunity and I would get the most out of it, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that it just comes from I just appreciate what is done for me. And I know what my parents did so that I could go to dance class, so that I could go to a good school. I know what my parents did to be able to enable me in that way. And so I don't want to waste any of that. I wish I could say that there was a specific book that I read that I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is it. I'm driven for life. But it wasn't. It was watching the people around me supersede everything that was thrown in front of them. It was watching them struggle against racism, against classism, against whatever it was, and succeed and come out with, or if they didn't succeed in the way that in today's society is perceived as success, they ensured that their children had the ability to. And that's where I learned. It's from my ancestors. It is, I know what they went through and I appreciate everything and I will not waste this chance. That's it. You got one light.
I wish I had like lighters, because like in the concert when like everyone's favorite song come on, like I just wanted to light one up and be like, yes, 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 yes. So anyone at home, please listen to what she just said. Go back, rewind it, whatever you have to do. Take that snippet, make that a part of your daily mantra, because I think that if you do those things and you kind of follow that path, there's no way you can lose. No way.
Yeah. I will be trying to share some of this journey. So if people want to, I'm going to try and I haven't figured out exactly what it's going to look like right now. I'm just doing spirit school. So you can learn about bourbon this month because it's Bourbon Heritage Month through my stories. But I'm going to also share, I don't know, maybe I'll show you guys my chemistry class, or I'll show you when I do get to go to distillery, show you what I'm learning there, or what I talked about that day. There's a lot of really interesting things that are happening that I think it would benefit the community. It would benefit anybody on this that is thinking about taking this journey to be able to, if I shared that with them. So I want to figure out a way for that for me to be able to do that. Sorry, I'm stumbling all over myself.
No, I've been following the 101s and your kind of in-depth terminology that's a little beyond the 101. And anybody else who wants to follow that, you can You can find it at Spirited Tracie on Instagram. Always super fun. There's always some fun things to look at, fun stories to watch on there. Now that you are a little bit outside of the ambassador role, what are your, as a whiskey maven, what are your new favorite whiskeys coming out? What are some distilleries that you're really excited about?
Oh, that's a good one. So we just did so I'm part of the Drummers Club, and they do so much fun stuff. So I've been hanging out with Lisa a lot from Widow. She's awesome. Hanging out with Allison from Bren. Yeah. And actually hanging out with Paul with you. So we've done tastings with, so I mean, seriously, my life has been rotating around Sampson and Surrey, which is not bad. But what is, can I say that I've really been going back? I've been wanting to get, because I have been so ingrained in the American whiskey or the Scotch whiskey industry, I really wanted to go back, which American whiskey was kind of what I started with, but it's really what I got to know a little bit easier because it was accessible. And I used to teach those classes. So now I'm going back and actually picking back up in the American whiskey industry and going back to basics, like pulling out my Buffalo Trace and pulling out, my Old Forester and all those things again. And yay!
Catoctin Creek is doing a really cool brandy that I just had recently, and it freaking blew my mind. We had a beautiful bourbon from Peerless Distillery in Kentucky. I'm sorry. I should be better at this question.
No, it's all what you love. And I think it's, especially the stuff as we taste it and it's recent, we get re-excited about things, Yeah.
So for me, basically, I feel like it's really just blind tasting a lot back in bourbons, really figuring out what I love about the mash bill, specific techniques that are being used, to really reacquaint myself as I'm going into these distilleries. That's been my focus more than studying what's coming out that's new. It's really been about learning again, really setting my palate back to American whiskey.
So a little sidestep from this. This is kind of a spin-off of one of the questions that Mo asks on his show about Home Bars Live. And every week I think of a great concert, but I was stuck yesterday whenever it came up with my headliner, and it was either going to be Mary J. Blige or Sade. So now, who would you pick?
Those two? Sade, hands down.
Yeah, you think? Well, I know, man.
That's just for me. That's me personally. She is my vibe. I love.
I used to listen to Smooth Operator every morning when I woke up.
But
that's why I'm so G now.
It's just like her voice is kind of shoots directly into my heart. Sade. Sorry.
And she also looks.
Sorry, Barry.
She also still looks like 22, which is.
How is this possible? Nothing has changed about her entire body. Yeah. Nothing. I don't get it.
She got that old soul blackness. She got something going on because she does not age at all.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
But Mary's picture was looking pretty. I don't know.
Mary though.
I love her.
I saw Mary J. Blige and Robin Thicke in concert.
Yeah.
And it was a great one, but I remember Mary was singing Just Fine, which is that's my birthday song, a song I listened to I don't know how many times. And that song came on, and I felt like I was gonna take my shirt off and wave it like a helicopter. I'm telling she said, I'm fine. I said, whoa, oh! So I maybe have them both at the concert. Maybe.
I know.
Why choose if it's your dream, right?
That's true. Make it happen. Come on, we're pursuing these dreams. So.
Okay, so Chris took a page out of my book. I'm going to take one out of my book as well too. So I run a show, Home Bars Live, which would love to have you on at some point. That airs every Tuesday for everyone watching at home. If you don't know, 12 o'clock Pacific, 3 o'clock Eastern. Yeah, baby, 8 o'clock in the UK. So anyway, a question I like to ask is, if you were able to have a magic party, right? And you were able to have 3 magicians. Most people have been able to come up with 2. So any magicians you want. But
no.
What magicians would you have at your party?
That's a really bad question for me. I don't know. I don't know any magicians. Oh my gosh.
As magical as you are, As magical as you are, you don't believe in magic?
Magic has never, ever been my thing. It's so interesting that you asked me that.
She's like,
and
Merlin.
I can't think of a single person right now. That is insane. Who's the guy that died? Like,
Babe.
Yeah.
Who's the magician that died?
A lot of them. Houdini.
Houdini. No, this is the thing. So my husband and I are like, we think so like it's ridiculous. So I knew if I just asked him this really big, broad question, it could be anything, right? I knew he'd know exactly what I was talking about. I love it.
Oh, that's so funny.
Nobody remembers David Copperfield like this. Nobody remembers.
Copperfield?
He made a plane disappear, man.
Mo, I join your astonishment that it took until this week on your show for someone to come up with David Copperfield.
Yeah, I'm an 80s baby. I figured, we were like, he used to be on ABC.
David Copperfield was actually big. Yes, I do. And didn't he make the Empire State Building disappear? Or no, Statue of Liberty?
Yeah,
Statue of Liberty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize. But I still wouldn't have him on my show. We're gonna change that show. It's not gonna be magic. It's just gonna be a talent show, and I'm gonna pull my favorite singers. How about that?
Okay, so if
we're gonna be a Broadway show.
Well, if you were able to throw, if you were able to have a Broadway show,
okay, with
3 of your favorite performers, who would they be?
Oh.
So Audra McDonald. Actually, I'm really loving Sierra Bojas right now. She's super like earthy and like hippie, and her voice is killer. Who else? Can I just pick my friend? So I have friends on Broadway, so I'm gonna pick my friend Kimberly Marable because she's badass. Sorry for cursing. Yeah, I always want to shine. So she was in The Lion King, and then
nice.
Yeah, she just did this new show. What's the one that just won the Tony Award last year?
I'll have to ask my daughter. She's in
the one.
Oh my gosh,
Tony Award winner. The Tony Award.
No, we
winner,
totally
right?
know it. Oh gosh, it's the story where Hamilton was like 3 years ago.
Was it?
Yeah. Anyways,
was it
so funny that? Huh?
Was it Beetlejuice?
No, but I saw Beetlejuice when it was running here in DC.
Yes.
It's the one with the rose. So basically, they go down to hell, and he's trying to save his love, but I don't want to tell the end of the story. It's not.
So
it's not fun.
Right now.
So I'm sorry, and I guess I'm not up on my theatrical game.
Yes.
But there's a Beetlejuice.
Yes.
Oh, it's so fun. It's a really fun musical. Yeah, It was really fun.
I've been accustomed to that one, Hamilton and Heathers. She really digs
Heathers, yes. Yeah.
She's like all into the theater right now, so I'm like.
So I actually wish Heathers had done better. I enjoyed it. I wish it had done better. What about Mean Girls? Did she like Mean Girls?
Yep. Oh, dude, yes.
I feel like that was more. Yeah, Heathers wasn't as good. Musically, it wasn't as good as Mean Girls. I think Mean Girls.
So both the girls like their favorites are Hamilton and The Greatest Showman.
What about the original Lion King though?
Oh
yeah,
man.
I like the Lion King.
Every time I see it, I still get tingles.
Like
such a good show.
Just be like this.
He's up on the stairs. It's so good. Sorry, we're on Broadway, but honestly, so Color Purple is one of the shows that I toured with, and I got to be the understudy on the national tour for guess who? Who would you think?
No.
Who?
Did you say no?
No, I'm saying guess.
Oprah.
In a Color Purple?
Yeah, wasn't she in that?
Yeah, but that wasn't her role. What was?
Okay, I was the understudy for Suge, and then I got to play Suge.
I was just gonna wait and see if anyone else is gonna answer because I'm like, So I just wanted to be quiet on that one. I know Color Purple. Everybody at home, Mo knows references. I'm just saying.
I thought you said understudy. I'm like, I don't know.
But thank you for saying. I mean, yes, Oprah was in the movie, and she played Sophia, and I couldn't. Sophia is usually
a bit rounder, a bit, because but she's awesome. I love that role, and I couldn't play it. And just like they told me I couldn't play Celie because I wasn't dark enough, which I found very interesting.
Huh.
Yeah.
That would have been my guess, actually.
I wanted Celie so badly.
Like that would have been my guess. Like knowing you, I thought you would have.
They thought I was too pretty.
So Celie's yeah. I don't know. Me with no makeup is not pretty, y'all.
That's a whole nother show that we could talk about just in general. Like just that last little snippet of what you said is just like so many things to say.
Right? There's so many layers in that.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, let's talk whiskey. Yum.
I think we're getting close, but I think probably we have time for fast end whiskey questions. So what have you been drinking at home as we've been kind of forced to stay home?
Yeah, so I got an Evan Williams. I'm drinking the 84, the single barrel Jack Daniels, definitely one. This is the gold, which is finished in Maplewood from Jack Daniels. This one's actually really cool.
What else am I drinking? Glenfiddich 15 still, because I love it. I have a Widow Jane 10 actually out. I just opened that. I did a tasting. What else do I have? Like, what am I drinking right now? Those are things I'm drinking. Yeah.
Right on. What's the oldest whiskey you've ever had?
The Glenfiddich 50.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
If you could when you create your own whiskey, what's going to be the name on the label?
Ooh. That's a really good question.
Hitting you with the hard hitting ones. Bang, bang.
That's going to be hard because I think I would want to combine. I might combine some names together to kind of honor the ancestors.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure because I was like, my grandmother's Perryman, but my grandfather and like my grandmother's Harris and then grandfather's Franklin. And I don't know, I would figure out a way to kind of, somehow I'm going to honor the ancestors in that bottle because they are the reason I'm able to do that.
All right. And on that note, I wanted to say thank you, Tracie, for joining us today. This has been a great Whiskey Wednesday. I think seeing you in this role and seeing your light and how much you glow gives inspiration to everyone. Doesn't matter what color you are or what background you come from. So thank you so much for just being on earth with us here. So for myself, Maurice Brooks, out here in the very orange barbecued skies of San Francisco right now, to Mary Kelly in DC, my guy Chris Dempsey, no one cares where he is, but he's in Texas anyway. And to you, Tracie, also in DC as well. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. This has been Whiskey Wednesday, y'all. We will be back same time, same place, same channel, doing it one more time for y'all. Until then, we'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Yay! Oh, Mary's gone. She ran away.
I'm out.
Mary said, "Oh shit, I'm out of here."